In 1931, Congress was collecting money for the Congress. My father used to give. Bhulabhai Desai came to my father and he said, Sardar Patel wants you to give money for the Congress. And my father said, yes, I will give my money. I can afford to give 25,000 rupees. We were a small business in 31. So Bhulabhai went back to Sardar Patel. Sardar Patel said, this is too little. Again, my father said, I can't afford more. So eventually Sardar Patel sent Bhulabhai and said, please tell Lalaji, if he is not going to give a lakh of rupees, there will be strike in his mill. So my father said to Bhulabhai, please go and tell Sardar Patel, I am not giving 25,000, let him have a strike. In 3 days, Sardar Patel came to the house, apologized to him. Now, this is what I mean by his character.
We only knew him basically as children, and he was wonderful. He tried to teach us Indianness. For instance, the things that we can remember, I can remember clearly about him. Every Sunday he would personally read out himself a Satyanarayan ki Katha and then explain to the youngsters what it meant. That hasn't happened after he died. Secondly, he would teach us and encourage us to learn dohas, which were little spiritual nuggets, and reward us by giving us aam papad. He used to have a refrigerator in his room which had goodies for the grandchildren. And he would always encourage us to write essays and do small skits at home, all the cousins and brothers playing together. It was quite remarkable.
We went on a drive once a year or so before he died, and he said to me in his car, he said, young man, don't stick to the beaten track. Create your own track in life.
But one of the things that he instilled in every member of the family was that, yes, you must grow, you must achieve, but at some cost, which meant, in his mind, value systems. It meant decency, it meant integrity.
In colonial times, and especially after New Delhi became the capital of the British Empire, it was Bombay and Calcutta that became the cities of commerce. It was there that the building blocks of Indian industry were laid. And in Delhi, you had the freedom movement, nationalism, politics. What makes the story of the DCM group, the Delhi Cloth Mills group, unique is that they're virtually the only family from that time that was based in Delhi. This is their story.
He started the business basically with his uncle about 117 years ago. As a youngster, not even finished school, he started as a runner between various textile shops, and he developed a tremendous skill. And from there came the first spinning mill. From there on, as opportunities expanded, he started building new facilities, chemical plants, sugar factories, engineering plants in Calcutta and other places. So his energy for entrepreneurship was tremendous.
Lala ShreeRam's skills went well beyond his expertise in textiles. By the time he died, the business empire he left behind included interests in sugar, engineering and chemicals. The empire grew partly because of ShreeRam's ability to take chances.
He was the real brain and brawn behind the growth of DCM. And the first breaks that he got in life were during the First World War, when the British Indian Army needed tents for their troops, and he was there to produce the tents, and that's when he started growing the business very, very fast after the First World War. And in the mid-30s, my grandfather took over J Engineering Works and built up J Engineering as a huge business at that time.
In March 1932, the British government, well, the Indian government, gave protection to sugar industry. For the first time, DCM went into sugar business. That was away from textile. That was the first time.
The DCM empire continued to grow after independence, but the family nearly lost the group in the early 80s because socialist policies made it impossible for the family to own more than a small percentage of the company's shares. It was saved on account of Vivek Bharatram's friendship with Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv's personal intervention saved the group from a hostile takeover bid by Swaraj Paul.
It started in 1983 when suddenly we discovered that large amounts of shares were being purchased by somebody, we didn't know who. And I was extremely worried, my family was worried, and I went to Rajiv. And he just said, I will try to find out what's going on. And I remember walking into his office in Akbar Road, and I see this person who I have never met before sitting there. And he says, meet Mr. Paul. He's the new owner of your company. And he started laughing. That was when it hit me, and I almost fell off the sofa.
And then what did you do to save it?
I think he believed that there were laws in this country which at that time, maybe they've been changed subsequently, did not permit the kind of takeover that was being perpetrated both on Escorts and DCM. So I think he was really more keen on seeing that within the laws, if protection is required, or if there is even some amendment to the laws required for protection at that point of time for Indian companies, then it should be done and it should be adhered to. And I think he took it up in Parliament, he took it up with people in his party. Not everyone was amenable to it, but he stuck his neck out.
The DCM group survived that time, but was unable to survive as a group, with Lala ShreeRam's heirs choosing to go their separate ways by the early 90s.
1989 or so it was formalized, but it started splitting around the early 70s. And really speaking, there were basically too many cousins and brothers, and everyone wanted to be number one. Everyone was perhaps good enough to be number one, and they couldn't all be number one in the same enterprise. So it was almost inevitable. Now by the early 80s, it had become very painful because there was also a raid on our principal family company, DCM, by Swaraj Paul. That led to further tensions within the family. And finally, all of us cousins got together and said that, look, we all live in Delhi, we love each other, let's separate out in an orderly fashion. And that is what finally happened.
I was, to some extent, disappointed as a person should be, but I was also very realistic. And I saw it coming. I saw it coming in the 80s when my father and uncle were not getting along together. And I think the mistake that was made was that, and I say this, that this mistake is made over and over again in Indian business families, that they don't prepare for the future. they prepare their businesses, they have strategies for businesses, they decide how the business is going to grow. But businessmen in India don't prepare themselves for the next generation and the generation after that. And I think this is where I felt that neither my grandfather nor my father and uncle prepared themselves or the family for the coming generations who were entering the business. And it was a recipe for disaster, and I think it was a good thing ultimately that we separated and went our own ways.
There was a huge expansion during Bharatram Charatram's era when they went into fertilizers, which was the thing to do, and tire cord. And I would say that was their crowning glory. And they built DCM as a company to reach a position of the top 10, at one time number 4 in terms of sales. As times went on, these conglomerates with 14 different enterprises were bound to become like dinosaurs. There was a new theory of core competence coming into vogue, and my own generation, since I wanted to launch out into IT, there was a major shift from the traditional industry setup of DCM, which was sugar, textiles, vegetable oils, all very important, relevant kind of products during my grandfather's time.
The ladies in the ShreeRam family take their commitment to society, their responsibilities in repaying what they think is their due to society seriously. Not only have they been involved in building institutions of educational and social work and creative importance, but they actively participate in helping out in institutions like the blind school here.
Not just the school, it's got a lot of other departments to it, apart from this technical training center, which is post-school.
This is the technical training center.
This is technical training.
And what are they? They're making
more parts for motorcycles and for engineering. And these people who get trained over here then join workshops and factories. And they do very well because of their one disability, their concentration is very good in their work. And
what are the things you've added on? Because I noticed over there you've got some kind of
computer training, and I made it self-sufficient for one thing, because when I took over, there was always shortage of funds. We had to do fundraising.
I am working with this institution called the Kasturba Gandhi Memorial Trust. Our focus are girls and vocational training and literacy for women. But I think because girls are getting empowered, because women have come into the workforce, because they are becoming financially independent, we must address the boy child as well. The social evils you talk about rape, you talk about molestation, you talk about alcoholism, drug addiction. These are issues that boys come face to face in a much stronger and violent way than girls do. And proper education of boys from a very young age has to take place. And somewhere a direction has to be given.
As your Gandhiji's great-granddaughter, that seems like such a long way from a business family.
Also, historically, when Indian businesses were created, that was a sign of Indian self-reliance, and the mood was set for Indian independence. And Khadi was a symbol for Mahatma Gandhi of not just Indian self-reliance, but also it was the representation of the poorest of the poor in this country. Today, Khadi is made by the poorest of the poor, but they live in such deprived and pathetic condition that it's not a sign of Indian self-reliance any longer. It's a sign, if anything, of things that have gone wrong.
Lala ShreeRam's contribution to education and culture in Delhi is immense. He started Lady ShreeRam College, which continues to be one of the city's best girls' colleges, and his granddaughter-in-law Manju Bharatram has carried the work further by starting the ShreeRam School, which is regarded today as one of the best schools in Delhi.
We lived in Madras for about 8 years, and my children were going to a school over there where they were very happy. They enjoyed going to school, and it was like a day boarding in the sense the children came back in the evening. And when we shifted back to Delhi and my children were admitted into a school over here, a known school, I found it very frustrating because the children didn't enjoy going to school. There were too many children per class. The teachers were not paying the kind of attention that they should be and they could. So that's when we decided we'll start a school.
Another granddaughter-in-law keeps alive the family tradition of patronizing culture.
I think cultural this thing was started with my mother-in-law. She was very, very artistic. She started when she was dancing herself, learning to dance. She was playing sitar, and she started doing this Diwali Mela, which was, I was doing it in Ahmedabad, in Shreyas. So when I came into this family, so she just said, "Bas, this is yours. Now you look after." The ShreeRam Center is mainly in doing plays. We are teaching acting. We are doing children's workshops. We had this experimental theatre, and thinking that we were giving it for nominal charging, and lots of groups have come up.
Dr. Vinay Bharatram and his brother Arun personally keep alive the family's contribution to the arts.
Yes, it started from my mother, and I've learned the sitar from Panditji now for more than 50 years, and I still learn from him whenever I can. I still play the sitar. I now do it only for myself. I don't perform in public. But there were times when I used to, for myself, personally play, and I used to feel very good about it. And I used to say, could I have actually been a musician? Did I have it in myself? And the ultimate accolade came from Panditji when he, in a gathering said, if this man had not been a businessman and he had taken up sitar seriously, he could have been one of the top musicians of the country today.
It wasn't any one person. I was there, of course, being a pupil of Pandit Ravi Shankar, so I had access to all the great artists. And my mother has always been highly respected because of her involvement in this, and Arun was very much involved.
We end the story of the ShreeRam family in Sitaram Bazaar in Old Delhi, where Lala ShreeRam was born. The ShreeRam group is now scattered. It's in 7 different pieces, but its name still is heard in the corridors of commerce, and hopefully will continue to be heard for a while yet.
I think that spirit is getting reborn now. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we were living in a controlled economy. We were living in a society which was so strongly under the license Raj and under the ambit of you can do this and you can't do this. So, all of us, and I admit myself that, we were at a stage when we said, let's just produce and sell what we can. We don't have to bother about whether the quality is good, whether we are meaningful players in the world, on the world stage or not. And it's only, I would say, since the mid-90s that there is a change or in mindset of most businessmen in India. And I think that kind of spirit is getting revived in the new generation.
Jagadish Hare Tuva Charanana Me Tana Mana Dhana Sabatoma Paravaru He Jagadesha Dina Dukha Tarana Bhava Bhaya Bhanjana Rakheyo Sharana Me Tana Mana Dhana Sabha Toma Paravaru.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV